Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome to all of you, and let's begin the session with the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna, and I welcome you all for this session of Gita Mastery course. We are in chapter number 17. We will be completing chapter 17 today and getting into chapter 18. We have already completed part of chapter 17, and based on that we are sharing the quiz with you. So we request you all to carefully read. It's comparatively very simple one. So if you will be alert, attentive and mark it carefully, I'm sure you all will get all right answers. So here it is coming on your screens. Please read it carefully and mark the correct answers. Have you launched the poll? .1. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So here are the answers to your quiz. Question number 1, the living entity is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. Correct answer is option number 2. Question 2, in mode of passion one worships demigods. And here 68% of us have marked it true, but actually we discussed that in mode of goodness people worship demigods, not in passion. So the correct answer is false. The next question, austerities performed by the demons are out of pride and egoism and also impelled by lust and attachment. So the correct answer is both. The next question, which now this series of questions are comparatively very easy. So food in the mode of goodness gives strength, health, happiness and satisfaction. Mode of goodness is the right answer. Next question, people in the mode of passion prefer too bitter, too sour, hot, pungent food. The next question, question number 6, food in the mode of ignorance is tasteless, decomposed and consists of untouchable things. Next question, sacrifice performed with no desire for reward is in mode of goodness. Sacrifice performed for the sake of pride is in mode of passion, and speaking truthful, pleasing and beneficial words are austerity of speech, because we are using the words here. So the words is indication of speech. So it is an austerity of speech and not of mind. And the last question, charity given to Krishna and his devotees are, so such a charity is for our purification and advancement. So thank you for marking the questions, and here we go ahead in this chapter. Just a minute. So here we are in chapter number 17. We have already completed till verse number 22. So we have discussed in this chapter the division of faith and different things. So we have discussed faith in goodness, passion, ignorance. Then we discussed food, sacrifice, austerity and charity. And now we are getting in towards the conclusion of not only this chapter, but the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita also, because very soon we will be touching the last chapter, the 18th chapter, the concluding chapter of Bhagavad Gita.
So I hope we remember that we discussed that the faith, and then of course the worship and food and the sacrifices and the austerities and the charity that we discussed in the previous session, all of that is influenced by the modes of material nature. So based on our previous impressions from previous lifetimes, we are governed by a certain modes of nature. We may be very rajasic by nature or sattvic by nature. And how is that known? How can we know that a person is in which mode? All we have to do is just observe his worship. Whom is he worshipping? How is he worshipping? What kind of food does he like? What kind of sacrifices he is performing? Is he doing any austerity? For what purpose is he doing that? Does he give charity?
Why he gives charity.
Why he gives charity. So from that, actually, it is very easy for us to understand what is the mood of that person. So these is the discussion about people who are not following scriptures. So either we follow scriptures or we are governed by the modes of material nature. Now, in the final section that we are in, verses 23 to 28, the point being described here is that these activities, sacrifice, austerity and charity, how they can be spiritualized. So Krishna will give an example, Krishna will give the way that how we can spiritualize these activities. So a person who does not follow scriptures, for him advancement is very difficult. But Krishna gives a way. So okay, you don't accept scriptures, that's okay. So if you perform sacrifice, austerity and charity, you have to do just one thing. And if you do that, then your process, these activities will become spiritualized and you can make spiritual advancement. So let's move into this section, the conclusion.
Om Tat iti nirdesho brahmanastri vidasmritaha brahmanastena vedascha yagyascha vihita pura. From the beginning of creation, the three words Om, Tat, Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by Brahmanas while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. So here it is mention of three specific words. These words are Om, Tat and Sat. So these words were chanted by the Brahmanas, and here specifically 2 times it is mentioned that while they were chanting the Vedas or while they were doing any sacrifices. Now these are the names of Lord Vishnu. And just by taking Lord Vishnu's name, just by remembering Lord Vishnu while performing any activity, that activity itself becomes transcendental, it becomes spiritual. So now these three words, Om, it is mentioned in different Shrutis, and it is actually the name of Brahma. So when we talk of Brahma, Paramatma, Bhagwan, so Brahma is represented by this word Om, and we all would know how powerful and how significant this word Om is, that when we are chanting any mantra, it actually begins with Om. So Om is an invocative form, and Om refers to the name of Brahma. Then Tat refers to the cause of the universe, and also the one who represents the eliminator of the material world. So who has created the whole cosmic world and who would be eliminating it. So that is what Tat refers to. And Sat, again according to the Shrutis, it is mentioned that Sat refers to something which is eternal, which exists even before everything was created. Anything was created even before all the creation. What existed was eternality. That is known as Sat. So Om refers to Brahma, Tat refers to the one who creates the universe and destroys the universe, and Sat refers to the eternality aspect of the Supreme Lord.
So this verse describes the right spirit for performing the sacrifices, austerity and charity. So Krishna has been explaining about these three things. After the mode of worship and food, Krishna described these three things: sacrifice, austerity and charity. So here Krishna is explaining what is the right spirit. How do we perform these activities in the proper way?
So Om Tat Sat, it indicates Supreme Lord Vishnu, chanted while performing sacrifice and for the satisfaction of supreme absolute truth. So the whole point is that if these names are used along with the sacrifice, like if a person is performing sacrifice or performing any other activity, and simultaneously if he remembers these words, so these words are so powerful. These are not normal mundane words. These are such powerful names that it will compensate for any fault. So if I'm doing a sacrifice and if I'm making some mistake, so it will compensate for the mistake. It will compensate for the fault in the performance of various parts of that sacrifice. And just by uttering these three names, one is assured to get the result. So whatever the result is, whatever activity I'm doing and whatever is the result I'm expecting, I'm assured of that result, provided I remember the Supreme Lord Vishnu and I chant Om Tat Sat. Instill the mentality of Om Tat Sat while doing any sacrifice, performing austerity or giving charity. This alone will liberate one from the three modes. So very simple words. Om Tat Sat basically refers that whatever I am doing, it is for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, or I am offering it to the Supreme Lord. So when I'm remembering the Lord, when I'm offering it to the Lord, then automatically I become liberated from the impact of the three modes. So Krishna has discussed so much in detail about the modes of material nature in this chapter of division on faith. And now he's talking about how can I rise above? How can I cross beyond? How can I become liberated from these three modes?
Of course, Lord Chaitanya has appeared and has given us the process to chant the holy names of the Lord. So when we see devotees, when they perform any austerity or any, like we fast on Ekadashis or we perform any sacrifice, we chant the holy names or we give any charity, what we say? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. We pick up a call, we say Hare Krishna. So we take the holy names of the Lord.
Tasmadomiti udahritya yagyadana tapah kriyaha pravartante vidhanokta satatam brahmavadinam.
Vadinam. Therefore, transcendentalists undertaking performances of sacrifice, charity, and penance in accordance with scriptural injunctions or regulations begin always with Om to attain the Supreme. So, it is very, very important for us to understand. Let's look at this verse in two aspects. One, transcendentalists, these people are there interested in spiritual life. And when they take up these three items or three performances, sacrifice, charity, and penance, one, they try their best to perform this according to the scriptural injunctions. It is not some speculation, some way that they have mentally speculated and they want to do it in that way. So they follow the scriptural injunctions and then they begin the activity by chanting Om. So Om in Om Tat Sat is chanted in the beginning of the sacrifice, austerity, or charity. So this is very important. And last, for what are they chanting? Why they are doing this, performing this activity? Why they chant Om? That's mentioned in the last line, to attain the Supreme. So this particular verse, the 24th verse, it describes Om. It is chanted at the beginning. The purpose is that it helps us to remember the Supreme Lord, and therefore it paves the path to achieve the Supreme. So the whole idea is, Lord, I'm performing this sacrifice, I'm giving this charity, I'm performing this performances on behalf of you. And therefore I request that this activity be perfect. So it is not that I'm doing some sinful activity and I'm chanting Hare Krishna, some sinful activity, let me chant Om Tat Sat so that it becomes perfect. I am perfect and I do not get reaction for that. So that is not what is prescribed here. Remembrance of Supreme Lord at the beginning of any activity assures all auspiciousness. So this is very important. We perform some activity, we don't remember God. Then people who little advance, they perform that activity while planning for that activity, while doing that activity, they do not remember God. But once they have done it, then they may remember the Supreme Lord. But here what is mentioned is that we remember the Lord at the beginning. So for example, when I'm going to cook, the family is there and I have to cook dinner, then I first remember the Lord, that Lord, I want to cook nice bhoga for you and let me begin the process of cooking. So, or I'm going to give this charity, Lord, so I want to please you by giving this charity to the devotee, to the iskcon movement. So please bless me so that I can do nice service. So that is what is prescribed by this verse.
Tad iti anabhisandhyaya phalam yajna tapah kriyaha dana kriyascha vividhaha kriyante moksha kankshibhi. So now here the process is mentioned. It says without desiring fruitive results. So this is very important, that whatever I am doing, I'm not desiring any result out of it. So I'm not doing any activity desiring something. So without desiring fruitive result, one should perform various kind of sacrifice, penance and charity with the word Tat. So this is the second word, Om Tat Sat. So Tat we are talking about. Tat is chanted when a person is actually doing that activity. So Om comes at the beginning, Tat comes while doing that activity. So either it is sacrifice or penance or charity, I chant this word Tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from material entanglement. So when a person is performing selfless sacrifice, austerity or charity, which means I am not in the center, I do not desire anything. So I'm not doing a yajna for my long life or for my health or whatever reason. I'm not doing that. I'm doing it for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So then the word Tat is chanted, and that would help to get free from the material entanglement. So it describes Tat chanted while performance of sacrifice, austerity or penance. Purpose is freedom from material entanglement, and these activities are done without expecting any material gain. So this is very, very important point here, that no material gain is expected. Sadbhave sadhu bhave cha sad iti etat prayujyate प्रशस्ते कर्मणि तथा सच्छब्द पार्थ युज्यते यज्ञे तपसि दाने च स्थितिः सद् इति चोच्यते कर्म चैव तदर्थीयं सद् इति एवाभिधीयते.
The absolute truth is the objective of devotional sacrifice, and it is indicated by the word Sat. The performer of such sacrifice is also called Sat, as are all the works of sacrifice, penance, and charity, which, true to absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, O son of Pratha. So here we see three things. When I'm performing sacrifice, penance, or charity, what is the objective? The objective is devotional service. So when we do that, the service is rendered to some person, to someone, and that when that some person is absolute truth, that is indicated by the word Sat. So I want to give some charity to whom? I want to give it to the Supreme Lord. That Supreme Lord is indicated by the word Sat. Also, because I am the devotionally I want to perform this activity, I am a devotional performer of this charity, and therefore I am also called Sat. And the charity that I am giving, whether it is Lakshmi, money, or it is some grains, or
Computer.
And some people are coming forward, for some building construction. So whatever charity that I'm giving, that also assumes absolute nature, that also assumes spiritual nature, and that is also called Sat, which means three things. The Supreme Person to whom the service is being rendered is indicated by the word Sat. The person who's performing that activity is indicated by Sat, and the act itself, the activity of sacrifice, charity, or austerity, because that is being done to please the Supreme, that is also called Sat. So all these three things are indicated by the word Sat. So first one is understandable, object of our worship. Second is I am the performer. And third, there are different kinds of samskaras that are done. We may think that what kind of activities are being talked about. So there are different kinds of samskar which are done right from the conception stage till the death. So there are 16 samskaras which are done. Not all of them are performed these days, but some prominent ones are like Garbhadan samskar when the child is conceived. Then we have Simantam, and then we have Jat Karma when the child is born and the umbilical cord is cut. We have Namkaran Samskar when the name is given, Annaprashan when first time the grains are fed to the child, and then we have Upanayanam, Vidyaramam, these kind of sacrifice. Then when the child grows up, becomes much older, then Vivaha Samskar is there. And after Vivaha, of course, the cycle will start again, Garbhadan, Simantam, when the child is being conceived. And finally, at the end, is the Antyeshti or the Antim Samskara. So whenever these samskaras are being performed, we must chant Om in the beginning, Tat when it is going on, and Sat indicates all the three things. So many times it's chanted in the beginning. The whole mantra is also chanted Om Tat Sat.
Ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapastaptam kritam cha yat asad iti uchyate partha na cha tat pretyano iha. Anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme, O son of Pritha, is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless both in this life and the next. So here Krishna is talking about that doing any activity, like even if that is an activity of a sacrifice or a charity, and yet if a person does not have faith in the Supreme Lord, which means he is not doing it for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, then there is no permanent result which can be derived out of such an activity. So anything done without the transcendental objective is useless. So the whole thing, the most important, the foundational thing behind Om Tat Sat is having faith in the Supreme Lord and doing it for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And with this, we come to an end of Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavad Gita actually completes with chapter 17. Chapter 18, as you can see the title slide, the name of the chapter is Conclusion. So this is just the conclusion of entire Bhagavad Gita. And the interesting aspects about this is, like, if we read Bhagavad Gita, which we have done already, so we see that the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, we were discussing karma yoga in the first 6 chapters, but in the 6th chapter, the last verse, yogi nam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mataha. So in that verse itself, the section is on Karma Yoga, but Krishna is concluding there, Yogi Nam Api Sarvesham, the topmost yogi. And what he does, this topmost yogi, so you can refer to the translation and the purport later, 6.47. Basically, he is performing Bhakti Yoga. He's completely absorbed, his mind is absorbed in Krishna's thought. He is continuously focusing on Krishna. All his activities are for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So that is the conclusion of the first 6 chapters. Then the middle 6 chapters, as we know, it describes the pure devotional service, the nature of pure devotional service, what type of activity a person performs who's doing pure devotional service. So the middle 6 chapter is all about pure devotional service. Talking about the last 6 chapters or last 5 chapters, 13 to 17, and we have just concluded with chapter number 17, and we see that how much importance is given to Om Tat Sat principle. So Om Tat Sat is nothing but again devotional service, because the last verse of 17th chapter we read just now, it says that if a person does not have faith in the Supreme Lord, then everything is useless basically. So chapter 13 to 17 establishes devotional service on the authority of Vedanta Sutra. Chapter 7 to 12, it talks all about devotional service. So actually Bhagavad Gita is all about Bhakti Yoga or devotional service, and Krishna is emphasizing through various means about that process. And finally he has concluded with 17th chapter verse number 28, and now it's the conclusion time. So as we can see the section breakup, so verse number 1 to 12, freedom through Karma Yoga. 13 to 17, the 5 factors of action. 18 to 40, the modes control all, or the modes of nature. 41 to 48, purification through prescribed duties. 49 to 55, confidential knowledge. 56 to 66, again Krishna will talk about the pure devotional service. And finally there is a conclusion section in the concluding chapter, the conclusion. So today we will cover first section, verse number 1 to 12. Arjunovacha Sanyasya mahabaho tattvam ichchami veditum tyagasya cha hrishikesha prithakkeshi nishudana.
Arjuna said, O mighty armed one, O Mahabaho, O Krishna, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, Tyag, and of the renounced order of life, Sannyas. O killer of the Keshi demon, master of the senses. So this particular chapter, the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita, starts with a question by Arjuna. As he has been asking many questions in Bhagavad Gita, he says, I want to understand the difference or the purpose, basically. What is the purpose of Tyag? Tyag means renouncing. And what is the purpose of renounced order of life or sannyas? So here we see that Arjuna is referring to Krishna as Hrishikesha. Hrishikesh means master of the senses, which means, Lord, I have another question in my mind, and I want you to resolve this question so that I can attain serenity, I can attain peace. And here we also see another word for the Lord. Lord has been asked as Keshi Nishudan. So basically, Lord destroys demons, and doubts are like demons. And therefore, it's better that we ask the Lord or his representative, the spiritual master, to destroy our doubts so that we can be very confident in moving forward in spiritual life. So Tyag or Sannyas, are they same? Are they different? What is the purpose of renunciation and renounced order of life? So this is the question which comes in the beginning of this chapter, and of course Krishna resolved this question very, very nicely, as we'll see in today's verses. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam kavayo veduhu sarva karma phala tyagam prahustyagam vichakshanaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life. And giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation. So the first one, the sannyas, sannyas Krishna is describing that any activity which I do, which is governed by material desires. So I may have so many desires. I may want to become rich. I may want to marry. I may want to travel. I may have so many desires, and all these are material desires. So any activity which I am doing based on those material desire or fulfilling those material desire, if I stop all those activities, then that is known as sannyas. And the second thing, the tyag, is giving up the result of all activities. So I do the activities, whatever is my prescribed duty, I perform those activities, but I do not enjoy the result of those activities. So that is called tyag. So two things here, sannyas. Sannyas means giving up activities. Activities itself, not the result. The activities itself I stop doing. And tyag is giving up the result. So I perform my activity as a duty and I renounce the result.
So this is very interesting. Actually, these words come quite often, and many people become very afraid when they take up spiritual life. Before coming to spiritual life, they are afraid, that because they have heard that when people take up spiritual life, they can become a sannyasi. Or, when their friends and relatives go to the temple, especially iskcon temple, they become very afraid. They don't go there, become a sannyasi. So here Krishna beautifully explains the definition of sannyasi. I found it very inspiring definition of sannyas. If we do not perform activities which are inspired for my sense enjoyment, I'm a sannyasi. Which means this person may be cooking very nice bhoga. This person may be actually offering very nice food stuff to the Lord. He may be honoring prasadam, but he may still be a sannyasi, because in the whole activity of cooking, offering and eating, he is not the center of enjoyment. The Lord is. And therefore this person is sannyas. Is a sannyasi. Prabhupada mentions in the purport, Prabhupada talks about that when Prabhupada moved to US, and there were some of his disciples, because they were early days of the movement and funds were required. Some of them would actually go work. Some would drive taxi. Some would go to office. And the salary they would get, they will come and give it to Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada said they are all sannyasis actually. Tyag, as Sugiti was explaining and as Krishna explained, is to give up the results of all activities. Tyajam dosha vadite karma prahur manishinaha yagya dana tapah karma na tyajam iti chapare.
Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty. Yet other sages maintain that the acts of sacrifice, charity and penance should never be abandoned. So now Krishna is giving opinions. So he is giving two opinions, and he is telling some people talk like this, whereas others talk like that. So what are these two opinions? So he is saying some people, some learned men, they say all kind of fruitive activity should be given up as faulty. So giving up all type of fruitive activity. Now here he is referring to sannyas. That is what he has defined in the previous verse. That's giving up all fruitive activity. And then he is saying that the other sages maintain. Again, now Krishna is not leaving this. It's carrying forward from the previous chapter. Yagya dana tapah karma. So he is talking again here, sacrifice, charity and austerity. And he is saying that some sages say that these should never be abandoned. So these two things he has mentioned. Let's see what Krishna wants to say. So two opinions he is presenting about tyag, what a person should do. So some say that give up all the activities, and some say that no, these activities should not be given up.
So after these two opinions, Krishna will give his own opinion.
Yeah.
So the two opinions about Tyag, one say give up all activities because all activities will have some faults. Now, if you look at from a Vedic point of view, sacrifices sometimes involve sacrificing certain animals. And so we may say, we are committing violence against those animals. This is very beautifully described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where the actual animal is sacrificed only to give that animal a better birth, one. And second, the sacrifice is performed to understand the efficacy of the sacrifice itself. So it may be seen as violence, but it was not done for sense enjoyment. The animal was not killed for sense enjoyment, but to check the efficacy of the sacrifice and also to give a better birth to that animal. So here they say, one group of sages say, no, one should not, because any sacrifice, anything you do, some violence is involved. So one should not do. Where others, they say that, no, because it is mentioned in the Vedas, the last line if you read, because no one incurs sin while performing what is prescribed in the Vedas. No sacrifice is prescribed in the Vedas. Charity and austerities are also prescribed in the Vedas. So therefore we must perform because Vedas say, Vedas are word of God, and therefore they should never be given up. So after these two opinions, let's see what Krishna has to say. Nishchayam shrunu me tatra tyage bharata sattama Tyago hi purusha vyagra trividah samprakirtitaha.
O best of the Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds. So now Krishna is saying that I'll tell you my judgment, but before that he would educate us even more. So he is saying here that the renunciation is of three types. So any guesses what are these three types of renunciation which Krishna would be talking about? Krishna is telling three types. So can we type what are those three types of renunciation? Can we type it in the chat window?
What it could be what it could possibly be. Please remember we have been discussing it for last 3-4 chapters now.
So let's open the chat. Okay, so here we have from R. I am not going to read the name. R. Ramachandra. So Ramachandra BS is given the right answer and he's saying that Tamas, Rajas and Satvik. So three types. When Krishna is referring to three types, Uma has also mentioned the three modes. So yes, talking about the three types of renunciation based on the modes of material.
Rita is also saying she's typing different. She's saying Sattva and Sen, Rajasi and Sen and Tamas. Yeah. So it is according to the modes of material nature.
So Krishna's opinion about Tyag, renunciation, is of three kinds based on the modes of nature in which it is performed. And Krishna will speak a little more and then I think in verse number 7 he'll go again and talk about the three modes of material nature. So when Krishna is giving his opinion, listen attentively and follow sincerely. There is nothing beyond his instruction. So coming up is the most important instruction of Krishna, which we just have to hear attentively and follow. Yagya dana tapah karma Natyajam karyameva tat Yagyo danam tapaschaiva Pavanani manishinam.
Acts of sacrifice, charity and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity and penance purify even great souls. So Krishna gives the reason that why these acts we have been discussing for last, several times we have spoken these three things today in today's session. Krishna is making very clear they should not be given up. That is what Krishna's opinion is. And the reason he's giving, the reason is Pavanani, that even great souls, Manishinam, they are purified by performing these activities. So they should not be given up. We understand in this material world, however great we may be, we may still be influenced by the modes of material nature. And therefore we need to perform these acts. Yagya, dan, tapa, karma. We must perform them with the objective of purifying our existence. So that is what it is. Now, it is like when we perform these activities. Of course, the mood in which we should perform these activities have already been discussed, that we should perform it as a matter of duty, we should perform it without any selfish desire or selfish interest, and we should do it for the pleasure of the Lord. So when we do it like that, these acts themselves reveal the knowledge, like a lotus which emerges from the root. So there is a root, the lotus plant root, and from that the lotus emerges. Similarly, by performing these activities, the knowledge comes on its own accord. And when that knowledge comes, we make very, very good progress. Knowledge means we get knowledge and of course realization, and then we become very fixed up and determined in our spiritual life. So what is the Lord saying? That you should not give up sacrifice. Now the sacrifice is meant for the brahmachari ashram. So when the child is young, goes to the Gurukul and learns to perform sacrifices, or rather dedicate his words, body and mind in the service of the Lord, performs 5 sacrifices. All of us in Kali Yuga perform Harinam Sankirtan, or the sacrifice of chanting the holy names of the Lord. And then charity is meant for the Grahasthas. They should not give up the charity under any circumstance. Despite however advanced they have become, they should continue to give charity. So this is what Krishna is saying here, because it purifies them till the time we remain in this material world. And finally, austerity is meant for one who has renounced the grahastha life. Now he is vanaprastha. Now he is gradually, distancing him from his relationship so that he can prepare for the next stage of his life, or sannyas. So that is for the last 2 ashrams, and Krishna is saying never give them up. All prescribed sacrifices are meant for achieving the Supreme Lord, and charity is for the purification of the heart.
Etani apitu karmani sangam tyaktva phalani cha kartavyani ti me partha nishchitam matamuttamam. All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Pritha. That is my final opinion. So when Krishna is telling here, all these activities should be performed. So what are these activities? Krishna is talking about sacrifice, charity and austerity. And he is describing that in what mood can one perform such activities? In what mood do I perform charity or austerity? So he's saying without attachment, I'm not attached to the activity, I'm not attached to the result of that activity, and I am performing that activity as a matter of duty. So this is the mode of performing the actions, sangam tyaktva, or without attachment or doership mentality. Not like I am doing and that is why it is happening, and I am so powerful and I am doing everything on my strength. I am able to donate so much, such big amount. I am making a donation of 1 lakh rupees because I am so rich, or I am so generous. So that all indicates doership mentality. So not that way, without expectation of result, phalani cha. So no phal, no mango, no banana, no oranges coming out of it. I'm just doing it for the pleasure of the Lord and as a matter of duty. Kartavya niti. So as a matter of duty. Niyatasya tu sannyasah karmano nopapadyate mohatasya parityagas tamasah parikirtitaha.
Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So Krishna said that it is of 3 types, and Krishna begins to answer that what are those 3 types. So if the prescribed duties, these prescribed duties include these active sacrifice, penance and charity. So if these are actually given up, why? Because it is given up because of illusion, right? So then it is in mode of ignorance. So now we discussed that how by performing these activities, because they are prescribed by the Vedas, and by doing these activities, the knowledge arises, the knowledge of soul arises, the understanding of God arises, the understanding of relationship arises from this. And if we do not perform, which means I am not in knowledge, and therefore it is in mode of ignorance. So here we begin to see that Krishna is actually equating, he's saying Tyag and Sannyas are the same. So both the terms indicate renunciation. Dukkham iti eva yat karma kaya klesha bhayat tyajet sakritva rajasam tyagam naiva tyaga phalam labhet.
Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. So if somebody is renouncing the activity, त्याग कर दिया, stopped performing those duties. Why? Because of some bodily discomfort. So like I am not waking up early in the morning because it is difficult, and I say that okay, I have given up that austerity of rising up. So out of fear or out of bodily discomfort, so such renunciation is in mode of passion. So that person is not really renouncing, but he is acting in mode of passion.
For him, his bodily comfort or discomfort is more important than the duties, and therefore such a person is considered, his renunciation is considered as a mode of passion. Karyam iti eva yat karma niyatam kriyate arjuna sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva satyagah satviko mataha. O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. So the question which was asked by Arjuna in the beginning was to understand the purpose of tyag, which means renouncing the fruit, and what is sannyas, renouncing the activity. What Krishna is explaining here, that a person in mode of goodness, he does not give up the activity. He performs his prescribed duty, but the reason why he is performing that duty is that it should be done. I am duty bound to perform it, and therefore he does that. And at the same time, he renounces sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva. So he renounces the material association, that which promotes material desires in him. So he renounces that such material association. He renounces the phalam, the fruit that will in due course of time arise by performing these duties. So he renounces that fruit as well. And such renunciation is called in mode of goodness. So this is amazing. Tyag. So this person is performing activity and still he is considered to be a tyagi in mode of goodness. So Krishna is giving such profound principles here that if you understand, we can analyze the world so well. So renunciation in different modes. Ignorance at the bottom, we saw that he gives up prescribed duties because of illusion, and this will certainly cause bondage for him. He will continue to be in the cycle of material birth and death. And same goes for the passion. He gives up prescribed duties because it's so troublesome. He's so fearful, this will be so troublesome for my body, and so he gives it up. Whereas the person in mode of goodness, he performs his prescribed duties because it should be done, but he does not desire the fruit of the result of that. So he does not wants to enjoy that result, and without material association. So that's renunciation in the modes. Na dveshti akushalam karma kushalena anusajjate tyagi sattva samavishto medhavi chinna samshayaha.
The intelligent renouncer, situated in the mode of goodness, neither hateful of inauspicious work nor attached to auspicious work, he has no doubts about work. So now here the mention is of a medhavi person, or this person is an intelligent renouncer. So he's a very intelligent person. And why is he intelligent? Because two things are mentioned. He is not hateful of inauspicious work. So if there is something which is causing discomfort to his body, which is something which is unpleasant for him, so he does not despise that work. He does not not do that work. And similarly, he is not attached to those activities which give pleasure to his body, because he understands that he is not the body. So working at such a platform, and that is why he is known as a medhavi or an intelligent renouncer. So a wise renouncer, he is fixed in mode of goodness, tyagi sattva. He does not hate anyone or anything that troubles his body, nor is he attached to the pleasures of the body. nahi deha bhrita shakyam tyaktum karmani asheshataha yastu karma phala tyagi satyagiti abhidhiyate.
It is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities. But he who has renounced the fruits of action is called one who has truly renounced. So, remarkable verse. Krishna is mentioning here the actual reason why the action should not be given up. Krishna is saying it is not possible. Embodied being, we are trapped in this material body. And till the time we are in this material body, we identify with this material body, it is not possible for us to exist without doing some activities. We must do activity. So therefore Krishna is saying, so Arjuna, don't worry about renouncing the activity, because Arjuna in the beginning said, why you want me to fight? You asked me, I'm willing to go away. I'm ready to beg. I'm not willing to perform my duty. I don't want to fight this war. So Arjuna was very intent on talking about not doing his activity. So Krishna is saying, your embodied soul, of course, he is an eternal associate of the Lord, but then educating all of us that we are in this material body, and till that time we should not give up our prescribed duty. So we should not give up the activities. Whereas what Krishna is telling Arjuna now, you fight the war, don't worry about success in the war or failure in the war. So whether you win this war or you lose this war, whether you die in this war or you gain the whole kingdom by killing the Kauravas, don't worry about that. You renounce that part. And thus you'll remain the truly renounced. So a true renunciant, one who renounces the results of action, karma phala tyagi. So why? Because it is impossible for an embodied soul to completely give up action. So we can just understand that how Krishna has reset the mood and attitude of Arjuna, which was just so disturbed in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna has just done a reset for him. He has told Arjuna that you don't worry about the result, you fight this war, because I am telling you to fight this war. Anishtam ishtam mishram cha trividham karmana phalam bhavati atyaginam pretya natu sannyasinam kvachit.
For one who's not renounced the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, anishtam, ishtam, and mishram, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. So a person who's not renounced, so we have discussed, Krishna has mentioned about the renunciation. He's mentioned about what is the difference between sannyas and tyag. He's talking about the tyag. He's telling that how a person, while engaged in the activities and yet should be renounced from the result, and how the act of sacrifice, austerity, and charity should never be given up. And now he's telling that those who are not renounced, what happens to them? After death, there are three types of reactions which happen to them. Some are desirable, some undesirable, and some mixed. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy. So the desirable reaction or the ishtam is that the person goes to heavenly planet. The undesirable one is hellish planet, the sufferings, anishtam. And mixed is that the person gets the human life. So a person's action will lead to three kinds of result after death if he is not renounced.
In fact, Krishna talks about this in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. He tells Arjuna, hey Arjuna, you are a Kshatriya, you should fight. If you win this war, kingdom will come to you. If you will die, you will go to heaven. So, and he also tells, if you do not fight, then there will be so much infamy, and people will curse you and criticize you with such unkind words, and that will be worse than death. So Krishna actually talks about that. If you are not renounced, then you will actually have so many different reactions.
So remember that this section, what we are discussing is about Karma Yoga.
Yeah.
So this is not Bhakti Yoga. This is Karma Yoga. Krishna has begun summarizing. And this one section was about Karma Yoga. So that is why he's talking about doing the duties
And renouncing the results.
And renouncing the results. Yes. So with this we complete our this chapter first section. The next session, the reading assignment is from verse number 13 to 35. So thank you all very much.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. We are available for a little while. If you have any questions, comments, any realization reading Bhagavad Gita, and anything you'd like to share with us, we'll be very happy to hear from you.